Hi, welcome. This is Michelle Rich with the Iowa After School Alliance. We'll go ahead and get started with things today. Just a few housekeeping items. If you are using the conference line, please turn off the speakers on your computer. That will help with the feedback issues. And if you can, mute your line while others speak, and then you can unmute when you have a question. As we go through the webinar today, feel free to ask questions. You can type your questions in the chat area on the left-hand side of your screen, or throughout the presentation today, we will pause at certain times to allow you to ask questions at those times as well. So as we go through the presentation today, I'll be monitoring the questions that come up in the chat area, and then we'll have that time for you to ask questions. I want to welcome Allamakee Community Connections today, as well as the other 21st Century programs that we have on today. Allamakee will be presenting on evaluation specifically today. As you know, we have our monthly best practice webinars. This is a special webinar that is intended to focus just on evaluation. Allamakee has always impressed me with the breadth and depth of their evaluation practices. And of course, we want to present those best practice to other programs. So I thank Barb Winters, who's the program director, and the third-party evaluators that she works with, Jan Mitchell and Jim Veal. So I will turn it over to Barb to go ahead and get things started, but she's got a very good presentation for everyone today, including what they do with both qualitative and quantitative strategies for data collection and how they use the data. In the lower left-hand corner, there are some files, so if you want to access some documents that we'll be using as resources today, you can go ahead and save those to your computer. Barb?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for joining us, other project programs out there. I really would like to make this interactive, so feel free to interrupt myself or Jim or Jan at any time. I'm excited that we are a team because that's truly what we are. We work together and try to improve our program and make modifications to build it. History about me, I started in after-school programming back in 1998. And we've moved through many grants. Currently, we're underneath the state 21st Century for our 3 building sites, the K-2 site, the K-6 site, and the 3rd through 6th site. And we have Reducing Alcohol Abuse grants in 7th through 12th grades in the 3 school districts in rural Allamakee County. If you don't know where we're located, we're up in the corner. We border Wisconsin and Minnesota. And we're just real excited to be here. Dan, would you like to just introduce yourself, and Jim, just for a brief introduction?
Okay, well, this is Jan, and I have been with Community Connections for 7 years, working through the grant as qualitative program evaluator, and she told me where Allamakee County is, up in the corner. Well, I'm down here in the center. I live in Des Moines and journey up there, but also do a lot of my work from the Whitney location. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm Jim Veal, Statistical Research Consultant Educator, and I started with Barb's program, at least back in '98. I didn't know Barb then, but I got to know her better later on. When I was working with Ray Morley at the Iowa Department of Education on the School-Based Youth Services program, of which the Allamakee County Community Connections was one of about 27 sites at the
So, anyone feel free to join us with any comments or, any questions as we go. So we'll get started. And the first question I thought about was, why do we even want to invest time and energy in evaluation? Because it does take time and it does take energy. The reasons I've listed below are things that I think are important to make decisions, and it's really good to have both the qualitative and quantitative perspective. It's really important for me to have external evaluators. They see beyond my own perceptions. We can have limited vision when it comes to things we love to do. I also like to have various sources because of reliability and validity issues. It also is an investment in our future sustainability. We communicate by using the data, and we also build collaboration through using our data. Data-based decision-making. All of you collect wonderful PPICs that we have in our statewide system. I tried to list a number of the things that I can learn from our program through the PPICs data. They have many strengths. It helps us with a lot of quantitative data. One area of those, the test scores, leaves a little bit, for me anyway, of really showing true improvement in our programs, or what improvement is being made or maintained. We have those three divisions of low, intermediate, and high. So in that area, I like to gather more information. I like to see if our academic enrichment activities, our homework, and our tutoring are actually doing the things we like them to do. So I like to take the basic data and build upon it. And that's kind of where Jim and Jan come in, and I also have another third-party reviewer that I work with. And I've chosen different people from time to time to work with us in different expertise that I don't necessarily have. I like to build upon it quantitatively and qualitatively, as you can see. These are some things that we have done and that we do. Look at what your school already collects. For example, in our school, we already do the DIBELS, the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills. Then we send those to Jim, and he's our quantitative evaluator, looks at them. We also do the other, like the Oveus in the school day, so we use that data there. So sometimes it isn't necessarily creating more data, it's just using what's already available in your school system. You can see the other measures there too. Qualitatively, it's a little more interesting with Jan. We often look at our goals and see where we want more information. We also like to hear what other people are thinking of our program. So like in the consensus building program priorities, we have 10 focus groups with 68 participants. And we include youth, we include members of the different systems, and also community members. And so to get a broad input. The one that I kind of want to talk about a little bit is one we did a couple of years ago on after-school clubs being connected to the core curriculum. This one was real important for us because I wanted to look a little more closely at the academic achievement and the social skills that were being developed in our clubs and the knowledge. This is an example of one of the standards and benchmarks in K-2 reading. And I just thought this might kind of demonstrate how you can do this in your own program. Go to the standards and benchmarks through the core curriculum. And that is like the general K-2 under reading, one of the categories. And underneath the categories, you will see the different skills there. So I would ask our academic enrichment club leaders to choose 3 skills that they really wanted to have in their class that they were teaching or their club. And then they would record their own self-report of how many they thought mastered the skills, how many students attended, and then we sent that to our club. Look at any aspect of your program, look at the data, look at your test scores, the areas that you want to improve upon, and think of creative ways to do that in a hands-on way and then measure it. The value of our evaluation has increased over the years, and our superintendent, I asked him, why do you think this is valuable? Gave me the statement that it gives us data to help drive programming, and also data that's very specific to our students, staff, parents, and community. One of the arguments that you often hear, or we have heard here, when we present data, well, does this really reflect what our community is saying? Is this from our students? Is it valid and reliable? So whenever we're looking at data, we want to be able to answer those questions for our community members and students and for schools. We use our data. It doesn't do you much good to collect data and never use it or never look at it. And it takes some time to use it, and you need to do it in many ways. Whenever we start looking at what outcomes and processes that we want to have in our program connected to our goals, I like to talk to people that are experts. That's where our external evaluators or another third-party reviewer may come in, or just speaking to your principal or your teachers or your superintendent. So you kind of take your goals and see where there's room that you can support what they're doing in the school day. Then we talk a lot about, you have to work very close with your external evaluators. And Jim and Jan, they take part on phone conferences with us often in our staff meetings, come to our partnership meetings, our advisory boards. And you really have to build a relationship there. We talk about what are the outcomes desired, and how can we look at what we previously collected and what things is needed to be collected next for program modifications or to see if it is working or not. When you involve everyone, it really builds communication and builds relationships with all kinds of stakeholders. If you value all people's input, whether it's your students' input, that's a second grader, or if it's or community input, or if it's your superintendent, everyone needs to be listened to. So we try to think, what evidence do we need? What's missing? Then we look at what method would be a good method to collect the data. One of my favorites is time-consuming, but I found very beneficial, is interviews. Interviews with students, with staff. I like our external evaluators to do the interview, but we also have a part-time position where another person can come in and do some of these interviews if they don't have time to do them to the depth we want to do them. I would look at your reports or your updates also. Compile the minutes from your staff meetings and look at your monthly report. And so sometimes it's needing to use what you're already collecting. Some very important ones for us too have been paper and pencil ones, sometimes short, sometimes very simple questions. And even with the questions in your focus groups or interviews, usually there's a lot of discussion around what that question should be, how it should be worded. Jim and Jan have great expertise in forming those questions, but I have the insight on how the community might view that same word in a question. So sometimes you have to adapt what words are meaningful to who's going to be asked those. So that takes a little time, so you do want to dedicate some time to figuring out what method is best for the evidence you're trying to collect. Then you want to look at your data analysis, and you want to communicate that. You want to be real creative, and I always think about it says you need to see the same thing or hear it 7 times to remember it. So if you think of how can you present your data in 7 different methods and 7 different times, that's quite a task. But we have found some creative ways to do it. We have been publishing data in various medias. Some of our successful ones that we've really kind of just stumbled onto is creating a data book with all our data and giving it to legislators. We liked having that book to be able to pull off the shelf. It's also been really helpful. We pass it around to our stakeholders. And when they get done reading it, they hand it back to us and we pass it out to other people. Another method we found very successful is posters being in business coffee break rooms where you can target the parents, where parents don't always have a lot of time to come to meetings or desire to hear a lot about data. They really can have a lot of conversation starters in those break rooms where people are kind of bored. And we usually found that if you have different colors and create a series of them, it kind of piques people's interest and they get looking for it. And some businesses want to keep the posters, and then after a while you kind of build a relationship with a lot more people that way. Or you can just take a simple thing as taking one data point, putting it on a label on a popcorn bag, and having it go to the sports game, like the basketball game or the football game. Restaurants, table tents. So we a lot of times really like Jim to make a chart from his quantitative data to bring it into a simple visual form, and of course PowerPoint presentation. You want to use the data to make your decisions. Some of our most valuable data has been our Search Institute data because we have used that and collected that over 13 years in 5 different surveys. So that's very valuable to us. The Search Institute survey and the IOU surveys are 2 good paper and pencil data. They also can make a point be stronger, or if there's some weakness in it, if they agree or disagree. So it's really important that you use different kinds of data, not just take one source. When you look at the Search Institute survey, it helps us learn how many of the 40 assets that our students have. And it's broken down into categories. And there's a 40 asset thing in the file there that lists all of them if you're not familiar. These are the qualities in students, and I would probably say in adults too, that make us healthier people and we make healthier decisions and grow. This sample is over our 5 survey results, and this is with our 6th, 8th, and 10th grade students. So there's a lot you can do this, and a lot of ways you can organize it. The 2011 12th graders would have been in 10th grade in 2009 and in 8th grade in 2007. So you can follow a group of students sequentially, or you can look at how are the 8th graders comparing to each other, the 10th graders and the 12th graders.
I have not heard that yet.
What was that? Is there a question?
Well, I'll get back to you. I haven't heard it yet.
Hold on just a moment.
I'll keep you posted. I'll send you a text, okay? Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, go ahead, Barb.
Okay. This one here is telling our average number of 40 assets. And if you have like 10 or fewer assets, you make a lot more riskier decisions. Where the more assets you have, the better decisions you make. So your goal is to increase the assets. This takes some time. It's not a fast process, but you can see we're just over 20 right now. And we were at like I think we went from 19.8 to 20.6 in the last 2 years, which we were very pleased with. You can see when you look at the totals, we've improved a little. You can also see variations as they change in different grades, 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th, and 12th grade. Even if there's some question, I always think to the reliability and validity of these, you can always kind of see from ours, we stay within usually a 5% or 5-point range, give or take. So I think it's pretty valid, and the community has really grabbed onto these. This is kind of how they divide down into external asset areas and internal asset areas. And I just wanted to choose a couple of these to show you how you can maybe use this if you're interested. As you see here, our creative activities is our lowest one, and that's the lowest one of our 40 assets. And our religious community is our highest one of our 40 assets. That really reflects our community. I think if you use this very often, you may see too, you'll see your own community norms. Then you need to sometimes go back and see what were the questions asked. Under creative activities, they ask for 3 hours or more a week. Most of our community adults or students don't have 3 hours or more a week in creative activities. So if we can use any of our academic enrichment times in creative ways, we're actually building that asset at the same time. And we have a lot of room for growth in that one. Our religious community, on the other hand, is our stronger part. And so one activity we did, to be sure you're involved in all of them, we sent our search survey in little flyers in their bulletins, a series of 6, to all the 23 churches in our community. So that was another way to reach that religious community. And again, you want to look at your strengths and be sure we are here using our faith-based community. You can also see on this one, youth programs, and we're a little over 60%. We have room to go for all of our youth. We have supervised safe spaces too, and then also time at home. Another one I chose was to look at commitment to learning. And here we're low in reading for pleasure. So again, you have to go back and look at your school and what you do. In our school system, we have what's called AR. They have to read every day out of books. So I think when the students are thinking of reading for pleasure, they exclude all that reading because it's required by school. So that statistic could look different if that was, their perception. Again, all of this search survey is the student's perception. It also shows you the homework time, and so about 40%. So we got room that we can do homework in our academic enrichment programs and after school, and we're actually filling a need in our community. You can also see school engagement is pretty good and achievement motivation is good. So you see your strengths there and your weaknesses. Any questions so far? Well, if there's no questions, then we will go on.
Let's hold on just a moment.
Sherry and Ashley are typing some questions.
Okay, then thanks. Okay. Where did you get the developmental asset survey from? That's from the Search Institute at Minneapolis. Then you buy it from them in packages of 30. So it's a little bit of investment, but it's really well worth it, I think. For us, it gives us the most complete data that's understandable for our community and for us here in the school system. Another question there?
And Ashley, you can go to searchinstitute.org for more information on that.
How do you involve staff in the evaluation process? Okay, we involve both our, what I call our regular program staff and our extended staff. When we do anything, it's good to get their input. And so the example of the academic clubs that we did, the staff, the extended staff, and that'd be like, I'm not sure who you all hire in your programs. We hire many community members, high school youth, and also, different organizations come in, and teachers. So they were the ones that collected the data, and we like to have our external evaluators also do interviews with them, especially open-ended questions where they can give their opinion. We also, of course, they do the monthly reports and they do the staff updates, so their data is included that way. So staff can be highly involved. you know, and then you want to also come back with the data and have them know the data too, and help you look at the data and make decisions. Okay, what do we need to do more of, or how do we need to develop?
Barb, there's a question from Sherry, and she asks whether you follow the academic growth of the individual students year after year or grade level groups. So and maybe this is a question for Jim, do you follow academic growth of individual students or by grade level groups?
We don't have an RIP, so I'm going to let Jim answer that question, how we do that best.
We look at ITBS results for math, reading, and science at the different grade levels. I think actually we just look at it pretty much for everybody together. We don't break it down by grade levels, and we use standard scores to do that analysis.
And the reason we do it in group form is that if you're going to do it individually, I believe you have to have that, is it RIB or RBI, permission and go through that process. And so our schools, also in our communities, they are able to track back sometimes things to individual students in certain cases, so we're real careful. We try to collect the data individually, but then collectively put it in a group anonymously to Jim. So we retain the privacy and it can't be tracked back.
Yeah, that's especially true because you've got a smaller sample here, and if you broke it down by grade level, you'd have really small samples, and you might destroy that anonymity.
Right. So we're very conscious of that, and that's why with the search survey to it, I didn't mention this, we aggregate all 3 school districts' data together. You know, every school is very sensitive to not wanting to have anything negative said, which I understand, you know. And so when we aggregate all 3 districts together, it makes it anonymous and more acceptable. And it's also really, to be honest, there probably isn't a whole lot of difference between each school district. So there isn't a lot of variation with that either, but it's really important in evaluation to keep what do you call that, respect for, you know, looking at what the challenges are, but also, you know, not being negative. Very good question.
Part of building trust, too, I would say, Barb.
What was that, Jim?
I would say that's part of building trust, too.
Right.
We can get into that later.
Right, and you know, and trust audit mentioned that is really important. I just don't hand out this data. If people need like a question or something from the search survey, then I look up the question and share the questions. You know, all the time being respectful and trustworthy with it is very important also.
I think, shall I go ahead and go to the next slide and get started on this next section?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm part of this program because Barb has the sense that numbers are important, but that the human experience data are needed to tell the whole story. And it is true that we learn a great deal to supplement the quantitative data and also information that helps the programming and see what we can do with the program goals, validate that we are working toward program goals. I'm interested to to know that participants who are in this session, if you have used surveys, interviews, or focus groups, and you see a little box come up for a poll box, go ahead and we need you to say yes or no, and we are 50% yes and 50%. Well, now we changed, we've got 7 people answering, and we have 5 who said yes and 3 who say no. The important part of all of these is that there's some relationship to the program goals. And we look at those overarching goals of that the fund is tied to the funding. What is it that we said we were going to do, and can we prove that we have said it? And in all 3 of these cases, the idea of using pretty open-ended questions, particularly in interviews and focus groups, so that you're not asking the leading questions that lead them to a certain answer, so that you get an answer that is more of a thought of answer by the person answering. And then the idea is to analyze the patterns in these answers. Now, when we're talking about focus groups, they really need to be done with a trained facilitator. And I don't know, Michelle, are we going to look at that file on the screen, or is it best to just not look at the file on the screen?
I can pull it up here for us.
Okay, let's take a quick look at this file. This is as we sometimes up in Alameda County, it's not just me doing one focus group and then in another time frame the second one and the third one. Sometimes it's more convenient to do 6 or 10 focus groups simultaneously at one location during one time frame. So this is one of the process sheets that I've worked with. I usually try to have I try to facilitate a focus group of the facilitators, so they've had that experience as a participant using a series of questions for the training. And then this is the process. And it's not a group discussion. It is about giving each person in the focus group an opportunity to answer or pass on each question, and then going through a series of questions and recording them. So that sheet is information for you if it's useful to you. I think we'll go back now to the other slide set. Thanks, Michelle. And at the very end of going through one specific question in a focus group, I think it's a great idea to say, do you have any other information to tell related to this question? So that even somebody who's already provided an answer may have heard in the process of listening to others something that triggered something else to say. Having a recorder get those answers verbatim is important in the process. And, Barb did mention how labor-intensive qualitative data is. Sometimes it's needed because that's the only way to gather information for goals that aren't supported by quantitative data. Now, here's a sample scenario. It's from the current grant for 21st Century Learning Centers. All partners in the community, including parents and youth, have strong relationships working toward common goals. And so, that's written in the grant proposal. So then that's when Barb and I have a question about, okay, how are we going to find evidence of this? And we with interviews. I did many of the interviews, most of them, and we did the interviews with different groups with questions that were strategic to get the answer, get something that would answer this, but also appropriate to the person being interviewed. Now, some of the students that I interviewed were here as first graders, and there were 4 questions. What can you tell me about the Community Connections After School program that you're in? Do you know of any ways that you have been able to give ideas that help change the program? Do you have any examples of ways your parents have given ideas that help change the program? How do you get along with the adults in the program? What are some special memories of that? So that, even first graders come up with some interesting and helpful answers. At the same time, with site coordinators and staff, I would say, what can you say about the learning center relationships with parents and youth? What are some tellable moments? That's just part of the questioning for them. So you tailor, you try to get toward the goal and see the patterns in the answers as you compile and synthesize them all in a view. Now, sometimes we get into the situation of measuring attitudinal change. Let's say that you want families in the school district to increase their support of student success. Well, what does that mean? I mean, we're talking about a change here, a shift. So we use Prochaska's stages of change, which involve a hierarchy of stages from pre-contemplation, where they're not even thinking about it, to the other end of the spectrum where it has to do with, yes, I'm actively involved in making this change and I want to make sure that it continues. And what we do is I create structured statements to ask people to say which they agree with, and use it for a variety of stakeholders, as you can see, including adults, parents who do not have students served in the program, so that we can see a comparative of those who have been served in the program are at a different stage from those who are not. And just an example of statements, and we probably have more choices than what I'm going to give you, but on the pre-contemplation, we might have a statement, I am not concerned about student success. Okay, going up a stage, I can understand why it's important for students to do well in school. Continuing up to the preparation stage, I have an idea about a way to help students succeed in school. Then moving forward, I am involved in a program to help students succeed. In the fifth example with others, I have made an impact helping students succeed, and I care that we keep going. And this is again where Barb is helpful if the statements do not sound like the kind of language that would be used in any of the communities that we serve. Then we do some tweaking and collaborate on that process. And I'm seeing Vic's comment that qualitative methods help us tell the human story of the program. And that's right, it's the human story that is important to parents. Now, the other thing that we do is community connections is what it says. It's a connection of lots of people and groups and agencies in the county. And it is an active partnership, and we believe that the collaboration adds strength to the program. That this isn't partnership just so you have names on a piece of paper. So we measure collaboration, and here's how we do this. We use a rubric of levels of collaboration, and this is not we did not compose this rubric. It is something you can download to your computer from one of the files attached, and it gives the source of it there. Levels of collaboration at level number 1, the bottom level would be networking. So you can see some of the things. There's rules defined in the community. You kind of know who those people are. There's certainly minimal decision-making involved. And it goes on up through alliance, which has other descriptors, partnership, where you coordinate and share resources to address common issues and so forth. Coalition, where you really develop commitments, all members are involved in the decision-making, and then collaboration, where you accomplish shared vision and impact benchmarks and so forth. And the way that we do our gather the information on this is we use a collaborative ranking card. And sorry, this says a little slippage, I don't know why, but you name your own group, which is what should be showing up by this sign, and then you name the other group. Now let's say that in this partnership, we have a small group of middle school students who represent their school at a partnership meeting. So maybe it's the middle school students who are doing the ranking. And they're going to rank, they're going to have a card for everybody in the partnership. Some of them they won't have much collaboration with at all. But let's say for this example, this card is going to be about their ranking with the representatives of the police department. So then we focus on the current level of collaboration first. So we'll go back here, and let's say that, okay, they know about each other in the community, and there's maybe some informal communication, but there's not much going on in working together. So we will choose, they might choose roles loosely defined, and they would write that in this right here. They take keywords and phrases from that rubric, and then they circle the one. And then they have a discussion about, well, do we want to have what's our desired? And maybe they would like to have some communication with each other to address something that's of interest to both parties. So they write that down here, and then they circle the 2. And it isn't that we want everybody to get up to the level of 5, but we want the relationships to be built so that more is happening to connect each other. And in the partnership with community connections, the community connections staff is also one of these collaborative groups. So that about that.
Thanks, Jan. In the previous slide, I was going to ask you about that part at the top that's partially hidden was the actual name of the group doing the groups of raters and the columns to the same groups of ratees. So that would give us three tables, C by C tables, two by tables, where C is the number of agencies or entities. For example, if you have five groups that you're using, then that would be, or four groups, then you have a 4 by 4 table, as we have here, for example. And I just called them A, B, C, and D. A might be your particular program, community connections. D might be the school system. C might be the police department. I think that would be one of your partners, typically. And D might be high school students or middle school students. And so, for example, in the if we flip back here to the I guess I can't flip back. I've only got 101 here, Michelle. What happened to my current levels?
I'll look for them. They're here somewhere.
One of the things that I'll mention is that this is an ongoing measure. We don't just do it once. We've been doing it about every 2 years. And then we are able to show the results of the partnership meeting and have the partners go back and have continued discussions about with specific agencies or specific entities so that they figure out how they might work together to get to the desired level. And Jim will talk about how that, then the gap, then there is the
I guess we don't have the current and desired levels, but those are, there we go. Okay, here's the current level. So, for example, layer A, the community connection, say, rates B, school system of 3. That is to say, they rate the collaboration with B, their collaboration with B, a 3, which is a, you go back to your rubric partnership. B, for example, has a little different opinion of that collaboration. They rate their collaboration with a 2, which is, I believe that's Alliance, as I recall, the descriptor.
yes.
So, that's the, and similarly for the other combinations, A, B, A, C, A, D, D, A, B, C, B, D, and so on throughout your table. As you can see, the diagonal has NA not applicable since you don't rate people don't rate themselves. If we go to the next slide, you'll see what we desire the collaboration to be. There's the difference. Well, in any case, the desired turns out that was for A, rating the collaboration with B was a 5. So the difference, let's just forget about the desired for now. It would be a similar type of table. The difference would be a 2 there, 5 minus 3. The B, however, sees the collaboration a little differently, and they are quite content with their level, their current level, which was a 2. That's what they desired. So that difference would be a 0. And if the differences that we would like to see over time get smaller and smaller. And as you can see, most of these are 1s or 0s here. So we're doing pretty well on everything except for A and B. A and B might perhaps be encouraged to get together to discuss their differences on the level of collaboration and come to a reconciliation on what they want. So as you can see, it depends on who's doing the rating, the level of collaboration, and so you get these different perspectives. And now this is ordinal data. It's, you know, and we use the ranks for the numbers in kind of a Likert scale style of analysis. And you know, a purist, a statistical purist might say, well, you shouldn't be doing differences with ordinal scale data, but we do it, and we think we're getting some very good data from this. And one of the things we do is means for the agencies being rated, and those are given at the bottom here for the differences. And overall standard deviations, which are all the same in this particular case. The overall mean is 0.75, and that's the overall mean of the differences. And that's what we would like to see eventually get lower. And if it doesn't, then you ask, well, why didn't it get lower? Well, remember the differences between the desired and the current. Typically, the desired ratings are higher. And if the difference, if the mean difference did not get lower, if it actually went up, then that could be because the desired level of collaboration increased, or it could be because the current level of collaboration decreased. What we found, if you go back to the original slide that I was discussing, Michelle, we found in our program that in 2010 that we got a current level of mean current level of 2.54. In other words, halfway between the alliance and partnership, which we got a mean desired rating of 3.47. In other words, about halfway between partnership and what's the fourth one?
The fourth one is coalition.
Coalition. And that gave us a mean of the differences of about 0.9. The mean of the differences, by the way, will not always be the difference of the means. It'll usually be pretty close to that, but if you have missing data in there, that can affect that relationship. So I always focus on the actual mean of the differences as computed by in the C/C table for the differences. And this is based on 27 agencies or entities. Actually, 2 of them were had missing data at that time, so there were just 25 actual that contributed numbers to this. But and that 0.9 was actually a little bit higher than it was in 2008. It turns out that the reason for that was that they desired actually higher level of collaboration. and we viewed this as a positive. There was also some new people that came on board because there was a new grant in 2010, and so that could have contributed also to those to that increase. Perhaps they were less. Some of the new ones were less involved in collaboration with some of the other agencies. So you have to kind of look at this with somewhat with a grain of salt when you're looking at these numbers over time as your program changes. Any questions? I guess I was clear enough.
Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Another thing that just is kind of coming to my mind is whatever you focus on to collect data around also becomes more important to everyone. So you want to prioritize what is important to your program. And with that collaboration example, it's very interesting when you are rated by everyone else and you get back to your numbers, how they rate you, just like they get the numbers you're rated. So it makes it more meaningful that it's important enough for people to also work together, and that's the strength of it also. So we'll go on to the next slide if there's no questions. So with all this information I thought, how do you want to start? You know, and the important thing is just gather some information. One of the things that I have found helpful is the State Department. There are people that they've worked with, they can suggest experts. They also, when you go to conferences, you will meet people that are experts and get information from them. And just engaging in conversations, exploring different ways that you might want to collect that additional data. So start with talking, gathering good information. Then the next steps. I always go back to my program goals. I reread them, see which ones that we're probably the weakest in giving data for. And so then I want to say, okay, what is some method or instrument that would be a good fit? Then I like to consult with an expert, Jim and Jan and other people in whatever goal area you're exploring. And then you talk about, well, what kind of a timeline or what kind of a method would be useful. Then you actually go through and you collect the data. We give it to our external evaluators and they develop a report. They give that back to us and then we have to think of ways that we can get that information out to everyone. You want to include the evaluator in as many of your activities that you can so they really get to see a good picture of the people, the services, how things work in your community. Then you want to share that result. You don't want to just keep it to yourself, but you have to be pretty creative in how you share it. Then you continue to work real close with your evaluators. How can we make some program modifications, and how can we use this in our professional staff development? So it's just really interesting, the whole process. I think we have a comment here or something. Rick is making a comment. We should ask our program evaluation consultant, Mary. I can't say the last name. Not all consultants have such expertise. Right. So that's why it might not just be your one person. You want to draw on the whole field, national, state, or local. And Rick says you can ask him. So you can call Rick and he can help you too with that. And that's kind of how I started with Jim Vio's who was in at the State Department that had worked with our school-based youth program. Ray Morley had suggested Jim to us, and Jim had suggested Jan. And other times it might be professors that are working in a certain area that you want to grow in. Next, I thought, how do you build a comprehensive plan? And I think that's something we've really tried to work on here, is to build not single entities of evaluation, but build your program around a pretty deliberate database decision-making model. We really like to use the results and begin with what's most valuable and most needed. To actually do it takes time. So you want to put a plan in place to develop how you can do it in your timeline. But most importantly, all through these processes of data collection, you build relationships which lead to more validity and more reliability with your stakeholders, because they are included in all these processes too. It's not a narrow vision that we have. We believe everyone needs to work together. And that's the only way our program is going to do better with everyone's insight and decision making. And we have worked well to build collaboration in this way. Here I put our email and my phone number, and I am glad to answer questions. Any personal contact that you'd like with me, feel free to call. And I just really thank Jim and Jan for how they have helped us, and enjoy your journey of evaluation, and I'm ready to take any other questions if you like, or talk about anything specifically yet that you'd like to talk about.
Justin, for your information, I will be posting the recording of today's webinar as well as all the resources that we used today, the PowerPoint, on the wiki, so you can check that out to access it again. At the state level, the March 28th meeting, everyone should be there, but we're going to be doing some of this planning of our own for the state level, so we want to be sure to get all of your input on that work. So we'll be engaging you in those conversations as we go over the next month. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. Any questions?
Okay, question, go ahead. Does someone have a question?
I was just asking for questions. Go ahead, Barb.
I was just wondering if anyone that's been a participant, do they have some evaluation methods that they've tried and they liked, or any suggestions for us?
I think that's a good question, Barb, and hopefully one that we can maybe talk about in our evaluation committee.
Great.
So we'll be sure to bring that up. Well, I think this has been a really great presentation. Barb, Jan, and Jim, thank you very much for providing this today. I really enjoy all of the work that you do, and thank you very much for sharing.
Well, thank you for inviting us. I see Vic is typing something here.
And in our whole spirit of collaboration, this is Jan, I think Barb is sincere, and I certainly welcome any contacts if there's more information you'd like, or if you want to have help in the process that we've exposed you to, or if you have something to add to us. I'm glad to be helpful and to share.
Ditto here, this is Jim, and I certainly enjoyed working with Barb for these many years, and I don't know if that Excel file is available that hypothetical data, that would provide a little more information, since it would have the formulas in there, as well as the results of the data.
Yes.
People might want to see the actual Excel file there. So.
Yes, I will be sure to include that on the wiki.
Excellent. Thanks, Michelle.
And I think that's the last one of the files at the bottom. I think it's called copy of collaboration data.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's the PDF or the Excel file.
I see.
I'll make sure the Excel is on there. Thank you everyone for today, and Vic did bring up a good point that we want everybody to be thinking about some data that they would like collected potentially in a question form for the statewide evaluation, so be thinking of that for March 28th. And
about that, Vic, you want us to think about, is it a certain type of question or what area in particular measurable, and any areas, are you thinking of our relationship with the state, or are you thinking within our programs, a measurable, something within our programs or something with the state?
well, I think we'll want you to be thinking at the local program level